Welcome back to the creative playground. Let's start writing music. So, where do songs begin? Have you ever felt curious about what was the initial spark that started a favorite song of yours? And where can you find such sparks when you want to create a new song? So, fact is, there are a bunch of different ways that a song may begin to come into this world, and from reading and watching countless interviews and from my own experience, it seems that most songwriters do have a favorite starting method or 2 or 3 methods that they go back to because these methods seem to be the most fruitful for them. So today we will play with what I believe you can think of as the 6 most common methods to begin songs so that you can see which ones feel better for you, and above all, so you can get some quick early wins of creating first pieces of music in the course. The important thing to remember here is that all of these song starting methods or song starting points are all necessary ingredients that every song will eventually have. So no matter with which method you have started, your song would eventually pick up all the other ingredients along the process. For example, even if your song started from a little melody that got stuck in your mind, eventually you will need a chord progression, you will need to choose a rhythm to play that chord progression with, you will need a subject to talk about, lyrics, and the title. But the order in which you pick up these ingredients is what will change from song to song. After each method we will talk about, I will also give you some potential sparks for trying it out yourself. Feel free to pause the lesson if a certain method entices you and you want to try it out immediately, or you can watch the lesson until the end and then go back to the 2 or 3 methods that seemed the most intriguing. Let's begin. The first method I want to show you is starting from a chord progression that inspires you. And this can happen either deliberately when you sit down to write a song and you are looking for a progression that feels right, or also often it can happen by coincidence, you can say. For example, you play around on the guitar and stumble upon a chord progression that catches your ear and feels fun, so you feel you already have a vibe going, and this progression almost feels as if it's asking you to just add some melodies and lyrics on top and make a song out of it. So let's talk about an example of how to actually do it. And a simple way to practically try it is to take one of the popular chord progressions of rock and pop music as a starting point for a song. For example, 1-5-6-4 if we are talking in scale degrees, and that simply translates, for example, to G, D, E minor, C. Such progressions are so popular for a reason. It's because they are very catchy and easy to listen to. They feel very round. So it also means that usually it will be easier to jump on top of them and write a song with such a progression than, for example, to try and write a song with longer, more convoluted, less catchy progressions that feel unfamiliar to the ear. When you found a progression that you click with and you want to perhaps start a song, you would want to start playing it over and over, loop it, while trying to shape it into something that feels inspiring. You can try different strumming patterns or different picking patterns, either with a pick or with your fingers. You can try it in different tempos, fast or slow. You can try to put a capo on it because it can make things feel completely different, and just try to produce different vibes. And then when you have something that clicks and feels right, try to add some melodies on top. And then once you have something that feels right, try to add some melodies on top. Just try to sing, improvise. The chord progression by itself already has a vibe and it implies many different melodies that can work with it or might not work with it. And this is because it belongs to a certain scale. So just try to improvise, listen to it and put stuff out. waiting for the summer.
And often with a song, I'll just start sort of vamping, in Ellen Rigby's case, just starting vamping on an E minor chord, jum, 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 and then I start singing over it. Ba-da-doo-da, ba-da-doo-da. And as I'm sort of doing that, blocking the tune out, I find again, and you can almost hear words in what you're blocking out. And so I knew it was going to be a name. And I had to sort of pick up the rice in the church. I think that was the first thing that came. Picks up the rice in the church. Picking up rice in the church. Ah, well, there's been a wedding. Ah, well, she's a cleaner. So I kind of work backwards. It's like a detective story. I just get a phrase that like comes out of nowhere. And then I think, okay, now I've got this. Now I've got to get a name. That's the process for me, is kind of getting a little inspiration and then building on it and filling it in.
The next stage is maybe try to add some lyrics that will go with these melodies, or sometimes maybe the lyrics would already come immediately with the melody in the first place. I'm waiting for the summer. We will run together, chase the sun.
Too happy? I like that.
The bottom line, as with anything we will do, is try to really feel what you have, for example, this chord progression, and then try to vibe with it and add some things that sound and feel like they should go with it naturally. Melodies, lyrics, etc. Anyway, here are a couple of chord progressions ideas for you to try and play in different ways. Feel free to try them now, or maybe come back to it later.
Let's talk a little bit about the song. I want to talk about Higher Power. This song. You wrote it on guitar?
No, it came on a kitchen sink, a bathroom sink. Like.
Started with the beat.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The second method we will talk about is starting from a groove that inspired you. Or instead of groove, you can also say a rhythm or a beat. These inherently refer to the same thing. And it might be a groove that you took from a song that moved your body, or it might be a drum loop that you play from an app, for example.
Yeah.
We'll talk in a moment about where you can find some grooves. Remember that with any piece of music that you hear in the world, even if there are no drums playing on it, the foundation is always a groove, a rhythm. that is at the bottom. And because it's always the foundation, that's why it's such a natural place to start writing a song from, because it tells you so much about the atmosphere of that music piece. Is it something laid back? Is it upbeat? Is it funky? Is it sad? Is it fast? Is it slow? So where can you find grooves and rhythms that you can start writing from? So of course it's easy to say, oh, just come up with a certain groove that evokes a certain feeling or a certain mood. But this is easier said than done, and for most people it would be hard to come up with a certain new rhythm without some initial inspiration. So for example, a great place where you can take some ideas for great grooves is from songs that you love, that you already really liked the rhythm there and that it moved your body. So I have a 2-minute extra video below today where I explain to you exactly how you can extract the rhythm from any song that you like and then dress up a new song on top of that rhythm. This is one thing. And another place where you can easily find grooves and rhythms is on apps. Drum beat apps, for example, like Loops or like Drum Beats Plus. And also another option is simply by looking up something like funky drum beat on YouTube, for example. I personally think that the apps are excellent places to get endless amount of inspiration for rhythm from, because especially when you connect those apps to a nice Bluetooth speaker, for example, it feels almost as if you have your own private drummer in your house that is helping you come up with great rhythm ideas for your new songs. Look for cool rhythms until you find something that moves your body. And then you can either try to see if you're hearing any good lyrics or melodies that you can try immediately on top of that rhythm, even without chords. Or maybe translate it first to the guitar on muted strings. And then build it up from there. Try to add some chords that go with it, then some melodies, lyrics, etc. Walking down the city streets, everything loose.
Starry, starry night, paint your palette blue.
The third method is starting from a concept, an idea of what you want the song to be about. Check out the story behind the song Vincent, also known as Starry, Starry Night by Don McLean.
Well, I read a book about him, written by his brother Theo, and I thought, gee, what a great idea, to write about. I always loved Van Gogh. Everybody loves Van Gogh, everybody loves Van Gogh. And I thought, what a nice idea to write a song about a painter, and tell his story. And I took his most famous painting and used the colors and the energy and the forms and everything to try to grab hold of what I perceived to be his essence.
So where can you find a song concept yourself, an idea? One example is that you might feel that there is something going on in your life right now that you want to create a song about. Maybe something that you feel about another person, maybe it's a certain hardship you're going through, maybe about a gorgeous place that you've recently traveled to and the feelings you felt while you were there. It really might be about anything that you wish. A personal example here that hopefully might give you some ideas is that 2 years ago I was going through a rough patch in my life. Many plans fell through and also a relationship, and I felt that I want to write a song that would basically remind me to be optimistic and that even though times might be hard now, eventually it will pass and things could be amazing if I just keep going and build new plans and really feel that optimism in my heart. So that was the initial starting method. That was what I was aiming for. And it was cooking in my mind for a few weeks. And from there, as you often see with any of the other starting methods, it started to mix with other methods. From there, I thought, what is the rhythm that would serve this feeling? Do I want something more upbeat that represents how, despite the hardships, you should always keep pushing forward? Or maybe something more slow, melancholic, introspective, that takes the current feeling more into mind? And then, what about the chord progression? Would it be a major uplifting chord progression, or maybe something with chords that feel sad? Then later I came up with the title, The Springtime of Your Life. And that already put a lot more of a vibe on what I wanted to create. And the point is that the entire song started fleshing itself out from the concept. Something nice that you can see about this method is that oftentimes when you have the concept known in advance, especially the clearer you feel about it, that's when the other pieces of the puzzle, such as the lyrics, the melodies, the chords, the rhythm, will already fall into place a lot more easily than how it is usually, because now you already sort of know what kind of emotions you're trying to evoke in that future song you're trying to write. And I think that you might really enjoy this method if you see yourself more as a planned, analytical type of person who likes to know what you're trying to build before you actually start building it. But I also think everyone can benefit a lot from developing that confidence that you can write about whatever you will deliberately choose to write about. So I really suggest giving this method a try. The fourth method, starting from lyrics. This method would sometimes mean that you would sit down and write the entire lyrics of the song and only then try to put music on it. That's how some people work. But often it can also start smaller. For example, you hear a cool line that someone says and you're thinking, hey, this should be in a song. That's a cool sentence. And here's, for example, what John Mayer says about what sparked the creation of Stitched Up, a very groovy song he wrote.
A friend of mine, Pino Palladino, great bass player also. Pino and I had lunch one day, and Pino says, yeah, man, last thing you need is a girl to stitch you up. And I went, what does that mean? You know, stitch you up, like, you know, do you wrong. And I went, wow, that's cool. Stitch me up.
Stitched up, out of my mind, feeling strung out, lagging behind, all trapped in, can't do a thing because I'm locked down.
Let's see how we can start a song from a piece of lyrics. Let's say you have a line or a few lines. Maybe you came up with it, or something else you can do if you're looking for some practice is looking up lyrics ideas in poetry websites or poetry books, or maybe in some songs you've never heard from artists you appreciate. So you know the lyrics, but you don't know the music. For example, something interesting, if you want to go to one of the masters of lyrics, there is a random Bob Dylan lyrics generator you can find online. And it brought me the line, "People disagreeing everywhere you look makes you want to stop and read a book." It's apparently from a song called Watching the River Flow. So we have that lyrics piece. or any other piece, and we want to develop it into a song. What can be the next step? And some ideas are that you can take that line and try to add chords underneath it. Chords will already make it much easier to come up with a melody. Let's try to come up with something that fits that line. So for example, that line coming from Bob Dylan, so I can't help but put a typical folk progression underneath it. People disagreeing everywhere you look, makes me want to stop and read a book. And then maybe keep adding melodies and lyrics from there and try to use that momentum as a way to catch an inspiration wave. So I feel it's time to write a song, one you'll want to sing along, picking some chords in the morning lights. Or maybe rewind all that music thing. And maybe even before you add music, you want to just take those lyrics and on the page add more lyrics to them. Keep going from there. The fifth method is starting from a melody. One of the most famous examples of a song that started from a melody is Satisfaction, the song that launched the Rolling Stones into global fame in 1965. The story is described here in Keith Richards' autobiography, and the cool story, shortly, is that he woke up in the middle of the night with this melody in his mind. He mumbled it into a cassette recorder he was keeping by his bed and went back to sleep. Then in the next morning he woke up and found it, and he took it to Mick Jagger, and together they kept developing the song from that melody and wrote lyrics and the rest of the music that will go with it. And a few days later they already recorded it, and that's the song we all know. Now, why start from a melody? So think about it. A melody already gives us some information to work with and to get inspired from, because it already has a rhythm to it and it's built from a certain musical scale. For example, again, major or minor, so we can already try to feel it and see what kind of song it can become when we are writing from that melody. We might already feel a vibe going there. Da 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 da. Practically, a way that you can start to take a melody and develop it into a song is to repeat the melody over and over out loud and try to keep developing it into something that feels catchy, that feels memorable. Shape it. You can try to make the melody longer and maybe start building a whole verse or chorus with it, especially if it's a melody that sounds more bombastic. Maybe it feels like a chorus. For example, let's take this little melody and extend it. Da-da-da-da-da. Da, 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 da. So you can repeat it over and over and then maybe extend it into something like da 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 da. Another thing you can do is you can try to add lyrics to this little melody and try to keep going from there. It's raining all day today, but I never liked this place anyway. Da 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 da. Anyway, here are some melodic ideas you might feel like starting to develop. Do 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 do. Try to see if you can catch an inspiration wave with one of those melodies or maybe with your own melody, and if you can even extend it just a little bit or just add a little piece of lyrics on top of it, you can already consider it a big success and a step forward. That's the way. The sixth and last method we will talk about is starting from a title. For example, Sia the Australian pop artist and songwriter, says that she usually starts a song by looking for a very evocative and very powerful word or phrase, something that commands attention. Something like Elastic Heart, Chandelier, Titanium, song titles that you've probably heard of. And once she has this title, she starts playing around with it as inspiration and trying to let the title show her what the song is about. So that's something that you can play around with as well. Try to come up with a title that feels evocative. It evokes some emotion within you, and then try to take it from there. For example, let's say that you're now sitting down, watching this lesson, feeling like writing a song tonight. And it's a rainy evening outside, and maybe there is some drama going on in your life right now that you feel like writing about. So maybe if you are inspired from Sia, you might come up with a short catchy title such as Thunderous. Then maybe you want to come up with a chord progression that feels like this title. So if that title sounds dark and moody, try to come up with a progression that maybe feels to you dark and moody. So maybe a dark power chords progression can be a good place to start. One little thing to remember for a more fruitful writing experience with whichever method that you're trying today is that I suggest keeping a mindset of simply playfulness. And that means that when you're creating, not every sentence or melody that comes out of you has to become the next Billboard hit. Just let go and enjoy the ride. And if you have an idea, a lyric line, a chord progression that you feel like trying, go ahead, get it out physically into the world, sing it or play it on your guitar. Then, if you like it, keep going and keep shaping it further. And if not, no worries, just move on to your next ideas. But try it before you judge it. I will see you tomorrow when we are going to massively improve our ability to ride inspiration waves. Goodbye.